It's the kind of story that grabs you because it could happen anywhere. A young man with dreams bigger than his small town life, a loyal dog always at his side, and a future he was carefully building brick by brick. Then one day, without warning, it's like he stepped out of the room and never came back. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. Welcome back to Beyond the Silence, Whispers Across America. I'm Sammy, your host, driven to shine light on the dark corners of forgotten cases, demand justice, and keep alive the voices the world has tried to silence. Today we're heading to Fitchburg, Wisconsin, a place most people would describe as quiet, peaceful, maybe even ordinary. But on November 8th, 2004, this quiet little town became the backdrop for one of Wisconsin's most enduring mysteries: the disappearance of 27-year-old Amos Mortier. Amos was a student at Madison Area Technical College studying botany and ecology. He wanted to live off the land, to become what his friends called a back-to-the-land guy. He loved the outdoors, thrived in it. And wherever Amos went, you'd usually find his husky mix, Gnosis, right there beside him. Their bond wasn't casual. Friends said you simply never saw Amos without his dog. Local shops even let Gnosis come inside because the two were practically inseparable. So when both Amos and Gnosis suddenly vanished, people knew immediately something was wrong. Ask yourself this: if someone you love is never apart from their pet, would you ever believe they just up and left voluntarily? Days ticked by with no word, no calls, no sign of Amos or Gnosis. Friends grew frantic. After a few days, some of them broke into his place off Lacey Road, hoping for answers. What they found instead was a home frozen in time. A record still spinning on the turntable. Gnosis's food bowl full, a half-rolled joint sitting beside DJ equipment, a tuition check from his grandmother resting on the desk, uncashed, tools laid out in the hallway mid-project, as if Amos had just stepped away for a second. Everything suggested he planned on coming back, but he didn't. And that detail, the untouched dog food, hit everyone hard. If you've ever loved a dog, you know, you don't just leave them behind. Amos would never have left Gnosis. That fact alone told his family this wasn't voluntary. If anyone understood that instinct, it was Amos's mom, Margie. From the moment she filed the missing persons report, Margie pushed back against what she felt was a sloppy investigation. She said people walked through her son's home without care, tracking mud, touching items, even using the bathroom. Evidence could have been lost right there. And when police discovered Amos's ties to marijuana, Margie felt the case was pushed to the back burner. Her son's disappearance seemed overshadowed by his reputation. And that reputation turned out to be more than just a passing detail. Amos wasn't dabbling in small-time sales. He was tied to a large-scale marijuana distribution network that stretched across states and even into Canada. Investigators linked him to an $80,000 debt, one that may have played a role in his disappearance. The feds got involved because of the scale of it all. Names started surfacing, most notably Reed Regala, a supplier who eventually went to federal prison, and Jacob Stadfeld, who investigators quietly referred to as a prime suspect. Stadfeld owed Amos money. His story about where he was when Amos disappeared kept changing. His family's property was searched. Nothing was found. But suspicion lingered. When someone owes a debt that large, and the person they owe disappears, how far do you think investigators should chase that lead? 5 days after Amos vanished, Gnosis turned up at a neighbor's house. No collar, but healthy. Someone had clearly been feeding him. That detail lit up the community. If Amos wasn't the one caring for his dog, who was? And why return the dog, but not Amos? For a brief moment, Gnosis's return gave people hope. Maybe Amos would be found alive too. But just as quickly, reality set in. Everyone who knew him agreed. Amos would never abandon Gnosis. His return was less a sign of hope and more a grim reminder that something terrible had happened. In 2006, a new twist shook the case. A man came forward telling investigators that someone he called Brad Green had confessed to killing Amos. The story was graphic. Green allegedly owed Amos a large sum, lured him out, stabbed him, and disposed of his body at a hog farm. If true, it's as dark as it gets. Imagine hearing that about your child, your friend. The witness said Green then emptied Amos's safe, took valuables, and released Gnosis. The story lined up with certain known facts: the missing safe, the wandering dog. But the witness wasn't reliable. He had a criminal record, credibility issues, and law enforcement wasn't sure how much to believe. But when parts of a story match reality, can you ever fully dismiss it? Meanwhile, thousands of pages of police documents and interviews began leaking out, suggesting key leads might have been overlooked early on. Investigators seemed to fixate on Amos's role in the drug trade. And with that tunnel vision, other clues may have been ignored. How many cases stall because the first 48 hours are mishandled or too narrowly focused? When official channels falter, families often pick up the slack. Margie became Amos's tireless advocate, joining support groups, working with organizations like Project Cold Case, and speaking at events to keep her son's name alive. She refused to let him fade from memory, and media began to play its role too. Filmmakers Christina Motwani and Nathan J. Comp launched a documentary project about Amos, revisiting evidence and re-examining details that had slipped through the cracks. That kind of renewed attention matters. In case after case, we've seen how a single news story, a viral post, even a podcast episode can generate new tips. The internet doesn't forget. And for families of the missing, that's sometimes their greatest hope. Now, 2 decades later, Amos's case remains unsolved. Suspects were named but never charged. Leads were chased but never confirmed. Rumors circulate from Tennessee music festivals to whispered confessions, but no solid answers. There's still a $25,000 reward for information. Still his name etched into missing person databases. Still a family waiting. Through it all, Margie holds on. She won't stop searching, won't stop asking, won't stop fighting for her son. And maybe that's the real heartbeat of this case. Not just the tragedy of a life cut short, but the relentless love of a mother who refuses to accept silence. So ask yourself, in a story like this, where so many people know pieces of the puzzle, what will it take for someone to finally step forward? Could it be you who holds the missing piece? That's where we'll leave it for now. No neat answers, only the questions that refuse to stay quiet. I'm Sammy, and I'll keep telling these stories because someone out there knows something. And for people like Amos, silence should never be the end. If a detail stood out to you, don't let it go. Share it, question it, talk about it. Stay with us. This story isn't over, and neither is our search. For more chilling mysteries and untold stories, follow and listen to Beyond the Silence. Whispers across America on all major podcast platforms.